Man.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, jeez.
All right, guys. So I hope everybody's doing all right tonight. We got a pretty good show lined up. Got Clint from Circle Hook Productions, Chad from D's Out Fishing the Chad, Has from Has Been on YouTube, and Mark from Catfish and Crappie. We're blue collar life. Tell you about a little bit about what we do for a living, and then I'm going to go over what I feel like blue collar means, and I'm going to let these guys go over probably first. But we'll start with Clint. Clint, you want to talk about a little bit about what you do for a living?
So I've done a lot of things in my sort of 20 years of work experience, I would say. Today, I'm a manager in a very large firm. I'm not going to give the name of the firm, but it's basically today a Fortune 50 company, I would say, in the US. And I've led sort of engineering teams in countries around the world. So I started off in South Africa, led teams in Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Egypt, where I was sort of the focal point for some big refineries and stuff there, making sure that their systems and stuff are up and running. But I started off really as a blue collar guy, if you want to call it that, right? So I was very much a technician. I started off my trade as an instrumentation technician, working in steam power plants. So my job was overhauling pistons, right? So I would overhaul pistons, control valves. I'd be overhauling them, greasing them up, then obviously calibrating them, getting them back into service, and the full end-to-end stuff with that, right? So it was very much a manual, physical kind of thing. But my interests took me more into sort of the computer side of that, right? And because I enjoyed that so much, I sort of branched out from there. And then eventually one thing led to the next. And just by applying myself more and more in that field, it led me to the management side of things. But, my philosophy really was that, that blue collar lifestyle from the point of view of having the right attitude is what drove things in the direction that I eventually wanted it to go. I mean, I could have stayed doing what I was doing and I would have been happy with that. But I think the attitude and the way that I like to apply myself and persevere led to what I feel is a success in my life today. So I attribute what I have today to, what I guess everybody would call a blue collar style of living.
That's kind of where I was going with this. Chad, you want to go next?
Sure. Well, I mean, I've basically been at the same company for the last 20 years. I just celebrated my 20 years earlier this year. But same kind of thing, except for, Clint's very, I will call him worldly. He's been all over and done a lot of different things. I've been with the same company for 20 years and really only had, 4 or 5 different positions with the company, but started out as a grunt. I started at my job as a part-time thing to go to college, and I started getting those paychecks, and I enjoyed working, and it kind of overtook my life. And I was just a grunt for probably 16, 17 years of my career. Just, warehouse type work, loading planes and containers and all that kind of stuff. And it wasn't until the last couple of years that I kind of got pushed into the management side of it, where now I'm a manager of the it's called the U.S. dispatch team, but we basically make sure that every pickup in the U.S. is now handled properly, right? We deal with all the stations across the U.S., but so I've kind of started doing that same thing where I'm turning over to more of the leadership and management part of the company. And but it's just like Clint said, it's through that grunt and all that work of building up. Most of my family never went to college. They worked factory jobs. It's about work ethic and working hard to get, a paycheck and getting what you want out of life. So I got a plane going over right now. I don't know if you guys hear that. But yeah, to me, that's what it is. I learned very early, through my parents about hard work. Watching my dad work, go in at like 6 o'clock in the morning, show up at 9 o'clock at night, getting home, and my mom working 2 and 3 jobs. And it was built into my brain that that's what you did. You worked for what you needed and wanted. So that's where I am now.
All
Now,
right.
now I get to tell people what to do a little bit more.
Mhm.
A little easier.
All right, has been. Where you been?
Well, I basically had a job ever since I was like 14, 15 years old. I kept the job starting off at, I remember one of my first jobs was working at Jiffy Lube, changing oil and stuff in high school. Later on, I got into working for Comcast, installing cable and such. And then that led me to a career installing security systems. I did that for a couple years for ADT. But I wasn't working for ADT. I was working for a private company, and it was all incentive based. And I wanted to get something more, salary along the lines. So then I ended up actually getting a job through one of my principals that at my high school. He was a principal in DC, and I ended up working as a custodial worker for like 2 years. That was probably the funnest job I ever had. That job was, despite the title, and you go there, you're picking up trash, but I had like full access to the gym. I was in the best shape of my life. There was like an Olympic-sized pool there. We were at full access to all that stuff, and I was swimming, working out, using the track, man, and going to school at the time. Didn't graduate school, but I was going to school, and I was getting help from English and math and all that stuff from all the teachers in there. So that was definitely, a plus too as well. And then my friend, he came up with the bright idea, was like, there's a job in corrections and they're paying pretty good. Let's apply. So, we apply, I go through the process and the background check and all that stuff. I get the job, he doesn't. And I spent the next 8 years of my life in corrections. Didn't think that I would ever be, a corrections officer. I had a nice career. I moved up in rank. I hit all my plateaus, moved up in rank. But then each time you move up in rank, you move to the bottom of that chain of command, and you get the worst shift and the worst weekends off. You work your days off for like Tuesday, Wednesday, or Wednesday, Thursday. You're working midnight shift or 3 shifts. So it just became a point in my life where I was like, I don't want to, sacrifice money to, pay a pay raise for a bad shift and bad weekends off. My kids are getting into their years where they're 10, 12, 13 playing sports. They're going into high school. I'd rather be home, spending more time with them. And this year, well, it was last year, I was out of work for about 8 months, 9 months. I was still employed through my job, but because of COVID and all that stuff, and my son being high risk, being born 2 months early, being around all those inmates and all those people, it was very high risk for me, and to bring COVID home to my son. I took some time back and started figuring out what I can do to work for myself. And I resigned in December of 2020 and never looked back. Me and my uncle, we run home improvement. That's what I do, during the week and the weekends and stuff. And it's allowed me more time with my family, a lot more time to do YouTube and go out fishing. I could pretty much, make and set my own schedule and work around that. Also, this year we started up Gypsy Habanero, a cooking business with my wife. And also I do a lot of stock trading and cryptocurrencies. That's one thing I really do, is I'm into the cryptocurrencies. And I made a lot of money over the summer doing that stuff. And that's allowed me to purchase some nice things doing that stuff. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell. I just like to live the Has life, have some fun. And right now we're taking it day by day, and just grinding it out, putting a lot of hours into everything I do. I put a lot of time and effort into everything. And that's pretty much it.
Appreciate it. Dan,
Before you move on, I want to tell Has that I am now completely backing Has life against Chunky after his freaky comment in the chat. That is all.
Oh.
Thank you, Chad. I appreciate that. Chunky, who?
I'm still pulling for Chunky here. I got to go against somebody to beat beat Has here just because he's playing. Dan, can you go or you still got music?
Can you hear that music in the background?
No, you're good.
Good?
You're good.
All right, cool. Yeah, I guess they didn't get the memo that Ryan Bortz is going live. They started cranking music at 7 p.m. Unbelievable. You know, my story, I grew up in the Buffalo, New York area. I had a dad that worked full time, and my mom, she kind of raised us. And then when we got older, started working part time. So that's kind of what I viewed growing up, and you know, always watching my dad fix things around the house and things like that. So I kind of adopted a lot of that into my lifestyle. I started working as a lifeguard pretty much as soon as I was allowed to work. And the nice thing about the New York State system is once I became a New York State lifeguard, that started accruing time towards New York State retirement. So from about the age of 17, I was putting time in towards what I thought was going to be my ultimate career, coaching and teaching in the New York State Teachers Union. And I accrued probably about every summer that you worked, you got a quarter of a year. So I'd racked up about 2.5 years or so of service. And then it was time to actually start jumping into the workforce. And the schools were just laying off teachers with 10 years experience and everything. So I went through undergrad, graduate studies, got my master's degree, and decided, you know, if I can't find a job here, I'm going to move elsewhere. Landed in Richmond, Virginia, and just been teaching ever since. So I am a 100% glorified babysitter, racking in the big bucks. So in my spare time, I got to hustle, doing all kinds of different stuff on the side. We cut yards, we do all kinds of stuff. We rent out a room in our house to try and help with that, and you know, always trying to find the next little thing to help out because the teaching salary is it's so amazing, you just can't handle it.
All right, I appreciate that, Dan. Mark, you want to talk about what you've done, where you're at?
Sure. Son of immigrant parents. They were both factory workers. My mom worked at Zenith, and my father worked for Citgo Petroleum. Back then, it was called City Services Oil. A long time ago. Around 12 years old, I started mowing lawns. I had 10 lawns I was cutting for $10 a piece. I was the richest 12-year-old on the block. It was awesome. From there, I got a taste of pretty much doing stuff on my own. Barely made it through high school. On graduation day, my father handed me a application to go work at the factory at Citgo Petroleum. Basically, it was an oil plant here. I went to work there, started being a janitor, did numerous factory jobs, everything from filling on the quart line, stacking bottles, filling, stacking empty and full drums. Promoted a couple times out onto the bulk loading facilities. From there, I went down to the pump room. I was selected and voted on as a union chairman there for a couple of years. There's a job I don't wish upon anybody. After doing that for about 10 or 11 years at that place, I decided enough was enough. Went back to school, went back to DeVry, got somewhat of an education. Back in the day, the IT business was taking off, so I was kind of snatched up out of there and took it away to work for a company called Experian, one of the big credit companies. I worked on their production for a long time in their marketing department, and after a bunch of promotions ended up being a database architect and designer until they laid me off back in 2007 when everything went bad. Times were kind of rough, so took advantage of what was available to me, talked to my wife and her sister, and we started a business that did really well there for a while. And then there's some illness and stuff in the families that's kind of slowed us down quite a bit, but we're still doing good. So technically my title is operations manager. Some side jobs that I've had, obviously I've done personal security for a long time. Now I do a lot of consulting to attorneys here in Northern Illinois, and I do a couple of federal attorneys too. The consulting has to do with their online presence, their marketing, operations, everything from Vimo to how they can be more productive using things like Twitter. Lawyers don't go on like TikTok. They don't do Facebook that much, but I have a lot of impact or a lot of say in how they do their stuff. Email marketing, I do a lot of stuff like that in the consulting side gig. So that's in a nutshell. Now, as far as how I was born blue collar, born to blue collar parents. I feel I still live that way. I mean, if you guys see any of my videos, my garage is nothing but like tools and projects everywhere. The way I fish is pretty much a homegrown kind of way. So just because you got a blue collar title or you work at a desk doesn't mean you don't work that blue collar lifestyle. So you guys all seem to enjoy me. So I think I kind of fit in the crowd.
Yeah, definitely. So mine's pretty similar to a lot of what either these other guys have said. I started working mowing grass when I was 12 years old. When I was 15, I had a job pretty much full time. I was skipping school, and when I did go to school, I was working after school in a garage doing mechanic work. That led into a long life of doing mechanic work, and then I got into doing a little tree work and carpentry. I went down a long, hard road with drugs, and that when you can't pass a drug test, all you can do is labor work. Go wherever you can find something to do. And then I got to where I'm at now. I've been at my company now for 4 years, and I started out running a weed eater, for $7.25 an hour, which was not fun. It was a great job at the time, but I've worked my way up into management from that, and I still have to do some work, but not a whole lot. Maybe one day a week I have to work hard. I cry to Clint and Dan about that all day when I'm doing that. But the reason I wanted all these different guys up here, all these guys that are up here, well, most of us are no longer what most people consider blue collar, but we've all lived that blue collar life, and I still consider everybody up here blue collar because of their work ethic. Blue collar is not just what you do for a living. I've got some guys that work on one of my mowing crews that they're the least blue collar guys you'll ever meet. They got the least work ethic. They go home, they sit on the couch, they watch TV, they do nothing. They come to work the next day. They got a blue collar job, but they don't live the blue collar life. Mm-hmm. And this whole blue collar life thing rolls over into what we do with YouTube and our fishing and all that tied together. And what brought this up for me was when I went to visit Dan at the James River. I had this impression, he's a school teacher, he's not going to be a hard worker. I mean, he's a kayak angler. He's going to work regardless. But you know what I mean? This is when I really got to see who Dan was. And it completely changed my outlook on him. It has too, for that matter, because we went up there and we didn't sleep but like 9 hours for the entire 4 days I was up there. And that was raining and we didn't want to get wet. But all that translates in, all that work ethic translates right back into our fishing habits. And most people don't get to see that side of it. It's a whole nother thing that people don't get to see. People don't realize that, we're out there busting butt for these fish for, like, I pulled a 28-hour trip. Most people, I don't know anybody else that's ever did that. That's a me thing. But like Clint, I've seen him pull some long trips. Dan, I know he's pulled some long trips and has. Mark, he gets out there and grinds hard. Chad, he lets, other people catch fish for him, but we won't go there. but
I'm sorry, I wasn't listening.
People don't realize that, that you watch one video that may take 15 minutes for us to watch. It may have took 12 or 20 hours of time for us in the water, grinding hard. I mean, back when I was paddling or pedaling a kayak, that was a rough 20 hours, to get that one 10 or 15 minute video that I sat in here with a phone in my hand and worked another 10 hours to edit,
To edit it, right.
Probably the hardest editor I know. Like, that guy will edit one video all night, and he's done it with a computer and mad skills. Like, I ain't just bragging on Clint, but he's probably got the most editing skills out of anybody I've ever talked to. He just loses me when he starts talking about it. But what goes into making a YouTube, making a simple 15-minute video, somebody's got 30 or 40 hours work in that. By the time they plan for the trip, prep for the trip, made the trip, come back home, unpacked, made the video. I mean, one video, you got 40 hours working, and we do it for free.
Easily, yeah.
Just like it. Yeah, well, some of us do. But people don't see that and don't realize that. And I want people to see what goes into all that, and to realize that these guys bust their butts at work and then go do this YouTube thing, you know. And that's the blue collar life, you know. So I everybody in chat, I'm sure they're blue collar. You know what I mean? Like one way or another, just because your job title doesn't fit into the blue collar category doesn't mean that you're not blue collar.
Well, I wanted to add to that, Ryan. So, I mean, yeah, we can bust ourselves for 40 hours to get one 10-minute video out, but it's, for me, and I'm guessing for everybody as well, it's about family as well. Like my wife supports what I do 100%, right? She'll make my sandwiches to go fishing to do that. She'll make sure I get up in the morning to do that. And I'm
Make sandwiches.
I get sandwiches. but that's the thing. So
sandwiches.
Where's
So-
D at? I got a phone.
No, but the thing is, so she's got that work ethic as well, right? So, you know, she feels that she's part of what I'm trying to do, and that's her way of contributing to what I consider, or, you know, where I want to get success in what I'm doing with this. You know, my kids know that I'm doing it because I love to do it, obviously, but I want them to be proud of me. I want, you know, at the end of the day, my family needs to be obviously accepting of it, but also it becomes part of their lifestyle. And as long as they're enjoying it, it really, I think it ties into that whole theme as well, and making sure that the family is also obviously contributing in a way, but involved and you know, loving what we do for them, basically, from this.
Yeah.
And I have that same thing. Like, I don't know how many times I've called Lindsay, and, you know, just while I'm on the water, and she said, well, you want something to eat? I'll bring you something to eat. She'll drive the 20 or whatever down to the boat ramp and bring me whatever. I mean, she may go to the store and get me something, or she may make me sandwiches. That 28-hour trip, she met me at the boat ramp for my third tournament sign-in and brought me sandwiches and chips and Monster, you know. And then like you was talking about with the kids earlier, I was laying on the couch watching fishing videos with my daughter, and that's pretty common. She's 6, you know. We'll lay on the couch together and watch fishing videos on YouTube. You know, she'll come through, and usually that's when I know it's bedtime. She comes through the house with her blankie, and let's watch fishing videos. Means I'm going to sleep, and you can carry me to bed. And we were laying there, and I think we had turned on a Justin Johnson video. And she said, I want to watch one of your videos. That just lit me up. You know what I mean? Let's watch one of your videos, Ryan. I mean, that ties right back to the blue collar thing, being proud of what you do. You know, how you gonna be more proud of what you do when your little girl wants to see what you're doing? You know, comes in and says, let's watch one of your videos over the best, what I consider the best in the business. You know, I mean, Justin's got 125,000 subscribers, and she wanted to watch my video over his. So I win today, Justin. That's just, I mean, that's how I feel, you know. but that's just part of it. And like Clint said, you know, it brings the family together. Like, it'll put you away from them, but at the end of the day, when you come home, it brings you back together closer.
Yeah.
And that's a big part of it, you know. Like, some of my most memorable times with the family here is, number one is my little girl catching that catfish on her Barbie rod, you know, and it's a shark. It's a shark. It is a little 3. It was a shark. And her holding that fish, and just that whole day on the water, you know, it was just it's days like that you get. And it's I don't know, I just can't describe it.
Yeah, I'll say it definitely takes you know, that blue collar work ethic to be able to run a YouTube channel, on top of you putting in, you know, 40 hours into the work week. And then if you want your channel to be successful, you got to put another 20, you know, plus hours at least, you know, into your YouTube channel. And that's, you know, out there fishing, time on the water, and then coming home and then putting that video together. You know, a lot more time gets spent in front of the computer, putting videos together and all that stuff that you guys don't see, you know, behind the scenes. And having, you know, obviously you guys know I'm a family man. I come from a big family myself and got a lot of kids as well. And having a support system that had, you know, having the wife and the kids that support, and to be able to share the passion with them and make a database online that you guys can go back and look through 2 years from now, 5 years from now, you know, and be able to watch those memories and be able to share that with your family. Like that's the best part about it to me, is just creating that catalog that's going to be on YouTube forever, to be able to go back and watch that.
Right.
Stuff.
I mean, it's something your kids can even inherit, right? I mean, if
exactly.
they really want to, you can hand it off to them and continue the legacy kind of thing.
Yep. Exactly. That's why I tell my youngest boy, Caden, I tell him he's the future of the Has Life channel. He's gonna take over. As soon as he's old enough to catch a fish, he's gonna take over the channel for sure.
And
you guys had mentioned all the extra time you got to put in. It just brings to mind, just getting the camera gear and stuff ready. It's like packing for a second trip.
Oh man,
you know, it's like having usually you're spending time tying rigs, getting all your tackle, make sure this is in the boat, that's in the boat. Are you going to take a lunch? You get all that done, and then you're like, wait a minute, I got to pack 3 cameras, got to make sure batteries are charged. Is the old footage downloaded off it? Are the cards blank, ready to go? Do you have power supplies? Do you have cords? Do you have mounts? It's relentless. It's never ending. And then once you get out on the water, not only do you got to get set up to fish, you got to get set up to film. And that's a job in itself, and it's hard to get all that stuff managed. If you're not disciplined and getting all of that done and keeping things, all your ducks in a row, it'll consume you. It'll make you not want to do it. So, and that's as far as just making a video. Now Ryan's getting into the live stream shows here. You're going to find out it's no different. You got to get guests on. You got to get everything, set up. Once you start making more thumbnails, you got to get thumbnails. You got the keywords. You got to look at the analytics. It's just as much, only different. Like today, I was in contact with like 5 different people trying to get guests for my shows. It's waiting on them to get back and forth. Once you get them, you need pictures. You got to get calendars. People cancel. It's definitely a lot of work on both sides. A lot of live stream. People think that live streams, you're just going to turn on a camera and get on there. There's so much more that goes behind it. And if you don't have that work ethic, it's not going to be very good. So you need to have that. Lyle, who happens to be in chat, he's been doing this for a long time. And if you guys know half the stuff that man does every day to keep his shows running, you guys would have second thoughts about why anybody would ever do it. So just a shout out to Lyle. He's kind of one of my inspirations in this live stream world, and he really works hard at it. So
yeah, I definitely will agree with you on that. Like to take a trip out on the river, the process starts 2 days before, making sure you got everything charged up. Ryan and Clint, you guys can attest to this. Making sure your batteries for your trolling motors and everything are charged up, for your fish finder, making sure everything is good to go. Sometimes you go fishing 2 days before the night before, you want to go the next day, but your batteries ain't gonna be charged up in time. So you gotta, sacrifice some stuff, man. Definitely is a challenge. And if you forget something, you get all the way out there and you're like, dang it, I done forgot the GoPro, I forgot the extra card, or I forgot the bait.
I forgot the net in the truck.
I had to turn.
I know guys that forgot the whole kayak. So
oh man,
the whole kayak.
But there's a big payoff when you're constantly getting messages that says, hey, you're doing a good job, or I really enjoy your content. Things like that make it all worth it. Or your wife tells you, hey, I'm proud of you. Or your mom says, oh my goodness, look how well you're doing. That stuff all makes it worth it. It's not the payday at all, for me at least. Granted, that's a little validation. Nobody wants to do a job and not get promoted and expand at work. It's the same thing on YouTube. But when your family and friends and even new friends that you get support you and speak highly about what you're producing, it's really an overwhelming, not just a good feeling, but an overwhelming feeling, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I definitely agree, man. I definitely agree with you 100%. Ryan, your audio, you may have to go back out and come back in.
You got to worry about audio when you're doing a live show.
Man, so much stuff.
Lighting is important.
Man, I got that wireless mic. Holy smokes! You know how many times that thing dies on me because the batteries die? It's like, I'll have video. I'll have 2 hours of good video that I can't use because the audio's terrible. Crazy. I hate that thing.
All right,
Ryan, tip, but don't be so close up when you come back in.
You're in your price. Oh, man. Hold on, guys. We just have a little bit of technical difficulty.
Cover yours, folks.
That one ain't me.
Yeah, you don't want to hit the X button. It will end the stream. You just have to like close it out.
I wouldn't know anything about that.
I did that before. My first "Do You Has What It Takes?" I accidentally hit the X button and ended the stream. I was like, "Oops." Oh man. Had to start a whole new stream up.
Well, Ryan's figuring out maybe we should say hello to some people in chat. What's going on, everybody? How you doing? I see Mark Irving, Buck Williams. I see Ryan over at Setting Hooks and Crossing Eyes. Look him up on Instagram. He posts a lot of cool stuff. The KC Fish page, Bluegrass State of Mind. Let me know when you're ready and back, Ryan. I see Brad Cotto. What's going on? I see Banking Cats. How are you doing? I saw Betty was in here earlier. She's watching. The Great Chunky Cats Fishing's on. I saw Panfish Nation in the house. Fishing Local 336. You back with us, Ryan?
Yeah, I'm here, but
you need to close one of those tabs, bud. Dale Hayslip in the house. David Smith, Fishing Local 336. George Ray from across the pond. There's Green Machine Outdoors. He's in there. What's going on, Dan? I think he had some problems. Lance is in there. Mike Irvin, Lance McCougai, Mike Irvin, Mike Turner, Parker Pursuits, Telly Hooks and Hammocks. Hello, Telly. The KC Fish page, and the one and only Tim Molina. I think I got everybody.
See, look at that. Mark is a true professional right there. He goes in, something goes down, start giving shout outs.
Got to keep stuff moving, cover each other, cover each other. We got to be there for each other. Keep the show rolling.
Yeah, I would just want to piggyback on what you said about the, just getting that positive affirmation. That's like one of the biggest things, that I look forward to is in the comments and inspiring people to fish, to start fishing or get back into fishing, or learn. I was a new fisherman, the last 2 years. I learned fishing late in my life. So sharing my story inspires a lot of people to get out there and go do it. And just inspiring people to get back out there. It's a great feeling, man. That's more than, than the money, than anything like that. And then seeing people support you, wanting the stickers, putting the stickers on their vehicles and stuff, wearing your shirts, your hats, your merchandise, all that stuff, man. Just getting, there you go. Got Clint up there, man. The support is crazy. The community is awesome. And that's just that positive affirmation, that positive, the power of positivity. That's what I call it, man. And just keep focused, keep grinding.
Mm-hmm. And
don't worry about the negativity. Keep them hater blockers on.
Absolutely.
That was I wanted to get into YouTube, was to help people learn to catch fish. When I first started it, I was still learning how to catch blue cats. I got a little channel cat lake down here I had figured out, but catching blue cats, that was still all fairly new. I didn't. From what I know now to what I knew then when I first started my channel, I knew nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Struggle makes you better. It absolutely does.
People can learn as I learn. If I'm learning, it's a lot easier to teach. It's fresh on my mind, and I think it worked to an extent. I've had a few messages come in. Hey man, your videos has really helped me. And that is what makes it all worth it. To be honest.
Yeah.
Payday at the end, somebody says, hey, look, I caught this fish doing this because you told me what to do here. That makes it all worth it, because now I feel like I didn't necessarily catch that fish, but I helped them catch that fish. So in my eyes, it's kind of like a guide. It makes the guide feel good to know they put people on fish. And that's just a whole nother feeling that somebody says that to you. I don't see anybody in chat that's told me that. Well, there's not very many, so they'd and then the channel cat lake I'm talking about, I went down there. We had a tournament, and I told them boys, I was like, I'm telling you what, I'm gonna give everybody a 20-inch lead. I'm starting 20 inches in the negative, for this 5-fish tournament. I went down there and caught one fish and got beat by like 80 inches that day.
You learn real quick. Don't handicap yourself.
But in my defense, I did go down there with cameras and was trying to film a YouTube video in a 5-hour tournament. And
Yeah.
I was still new to YouTube and still fairly new to catfishing, and it just wasn't a very pretty sight, you know.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Wife and my buddy's girlfriend was down there with us, and they were trying to tag along, and it was just a whole new experience. I learned a lot of lessons that day. But the reason I wanted all y'all to come on here and I wanted to go over all this is my channel's fixing to take a different turn, and with Lindsay getting sick and you know, being out of work, I've had to pick up side work on the weekends. Well, that side work is tree work 90% of the time because that's my most valuable skill. You know, I mean, what I can do that's worth the most money. And that's, if I'm going to waste my weekend and not fish and work, I'm going to make the most money with it.
Yeah.
So with her being at work, I picked up side work on the weekends. I don't get to fish, and I don't want my channel to go down, but I don't want to depend solely on doing a 1-hour live show once a week either. That's not who I am, and that's not what I do. So I'm going to start including some tree work, some blue collar work, as you know, we talked about earlier, what most people would consider blue collar work, and some of my day-to-day stuff. I can't put it all in there because it's mostly management stuff and dealing with stuff nobody cares about, to be honest with you. But when I do get to go out and do some actual work, I'm going to make some videos out of that. And my tree work especially, I'll put a lot of that on here. And then I'm going to be changing the name of my channel from Ryan Bort's Blue Collar Fishing. It'll be Ryan Bort's Blue Collar Life will be the name of it. And it's just going to be, like we talked about earlier, just going over different type work, different type of regular blue collar type stuff. If I have to fix a window in my house, you know, I'll put that on there. That's everyday stuff that, you know, some people don't know how to do that I'm just going to include into my channel.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if somebody has to replace a window in their house and they can watch my video and it helps them do it themselves and saves them, say, $500 from getting Has to come in and replace their window in their house. then
no DIY guys, just call Has, like, we'll take care of it for you. But no, I'm just messing with you, man. DIY is the way of life, man. If you can get it done yourself, definitely do it.
Yeah, I mean, that if I make a video of changing that window right there, and somebody gets on there and watches that video and does that, and I save them $500, there's my payday right there. You know, I that guy $500, and that's my payday, is him learning something from me. And I guess that comes from my dad and the way I've learned everything I know. It's all been passed down to me from somebody else. What better way to pass that on than through YouTube? You know, I mean, pass it on, and maybe someday I can pass it on to thousands of people, you know?
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, that's, I don't know. It's just kind of like a good reward to help somebody, I guess. And then eventually maybe I'll get paid to help people learn. I don't know. That's for where I'm at now, but we could get there.
Well, if you need some work and something to do video with, just come on up, Ryan. I got plenty of things that need done around this house.
Takes money to get me to work, Chad.
I'll just buy you a couple monsters and you'll be all right.
No, I bring them with me. I live on them. I live on the monsters.
Hey, but you gotta go. You know, you're not gonna let anything get you down. You come up with the game plan, and you're adapting, and that's what it's about, man. You adapt on the fly, and you know, just keep trucking, man. Whatever it is, people are here to support you and through your journey. You know, Ryan, you're a good dude, man. I met you in person. You know, you definitely, you know, spend more time on the water than anybody that I know. When we do these tournaments, you're out there for the whole 24 hours. The whole 24 hours you out there on that water, putting in work, man. And I commend you for that, man. Definitely blue collar fisherman for sure. I don't have the 20. I'll be out there I'll do like a good 15 hours sometimes, you know, 16 hours, but 24, man, you got that, champ, for sure.
I always do at least 8. If anybody wants to come fishing with me, it's got to be 8 hours, and that usually thins the herd a little bit. I always say fishing is work's 8 hours plus overtime, so it's usually the way it goes.
Yeah.
That's one of my trips, or one of my things for a trip. If somebody wants to go fishing with me, and we're loading up, or it's the day before, or we're planning the trip, and they start saying, well, how long are we going to be? I'm like, you ain't going.
No.
Yeah. Oh, you're not going. If their wife asks that question, okay, I get it. Mine.
Here's a tip: make sure you ask them how long can they stay, because if they won't ask you that question, they'll be in your boat and they'll be like, "Hey, man, I gotta go." You guys know how that goes.
Well, I guess I'm kind of spoiled up being on the Potomac River. We don't need to be out there that long to catch some fish. I'm 5 hours, 6 hours. We got our
Count your
limit.
blessings.
Here we go. We'll start leaning back towards Chunky again in a minute.
Oh man, but I definitely put some time on that water for sure, man. That's why I fish by myself. None of my friends are gonna put the time in out there with me.
And that's what I was going to say earlier. What Ryan was talking about, and I hear you guys talking, and I've talked to Clint a couple weeks ago, and him getting started into catfishing, Ryan, getting started into catfishing. You said you just started in the last couple of years. Mark, I don't know how long you've been fishing, but we're all in different parts of that journey, but we're all working towards learning the new stuff. I see Has has bought like 13 boats and a couple kayaks. And all that kind of stuff. Ryan, he just throws some bubble gum on the side of his and repatches it, but it's all good, right? But up until when I started YouTube, I had really never been a boat fisherman. I'd bank fish for 25, 30 years and only been on a boat a handful of times, and now I'm learning that, right? But we're always continuing to put that work in and learn the different stuff and changing stuff up. I think that's a big part of what we do is taking on new challenges and stuff we already like. So it sounds like Ryan's well on his way to blue collar living, installing some toilets and stuff on his YouTube channel.
No, you were saying that, and that's kind of funny because I had one of my guys that worked with me here a while back, and he was asking me. He said, well, what's your goal? It was right after I caught that last PB. And he said, well, what's your goal? What size fish is your goal? I was like, I want the biggest one. He said, well, right now, if you went fishing and what would you be happy to come back with? And I was like, my goal for this year was an 80-pounder. Like, that's the goal I set in January to do by December. And he said, well, if you catch that, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to go for 100. He said, I said, yes, that's my end goal would be 100. He said, well, what if you broke that your next trip? I said, I'd be going for 120, man. I mean, like, there is a game here. If you break a 150, the next trip you go, you're going to be looking for that 155 or that 160. It doesn't stop. And that's the addiction, and that's part of the blue collar part of it. You're going to put forth whatever work it takes to get to that goal at the end of the day. It doesn't matter if it takes you your life to get to that goal or if you break it tomorrow. When you do break it, you're just going again. You're just starting over. And
that's what I had.
Everybody. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, Ryan. That's what I had with running and endurance sport kind of thing, right? So you start off not being able to do anything. Like when I first started, my dad was a runner, and I grew up watching him run marathons and stuff like that. So I appreciated it, and I enjoyed the fact that my dad was an athlete, if I could call him that at that stage. But you start off as a 5K runner, and you struggle to do it. Like you can't run that far. Then you do it, and you do it a few more times. You become a 10K runner, then a half marathon, then a full marathon. Then eventually you start doing ultra marathons and things like 100 milers and stuff, which people cannot comprehend. Right? If you sit here right now and you think there's no way I could ever run 100 miles, but just by beating that size fish each time, there's a new possibility. There's a new breakthrough that you can make with your abilities, and just by applying your mind, applying yourself, you can do anything. Obviously, with fishing is a bit different because fish grow to a certain size, so it's not unlimited in terms of what you can do. But if you believe it and you just keep going out there and just keep working it, I mean, you can do whatever you put your mind to, basically.
Hey, Ryan, I'm going to have to jump off here, brother, so I can get ready for mine. So thanks for having me on.
All right,
we'll
Chad.
see you over at the bait shop over on Chad's
buddy.
channel.
I'll be over there to give you a thumbs down.
Wait, where's
already done.
on Team Has?
Where's that poll at? I gotta hold it. I'll get that before my show starts. You guys take care.
Yeah, everybody make sure and go over at 8 and check out the bait shop tonight. Chad's going to have all the guests from his couple showdown on there, or some of the guests. He's not going to have all of them. I'd say there's probably 80 teams in there by now. It's a 3-day event, Mark?
Yeah, it's like it's 2 days for sure, and then next weekend I'm not sure if it's a third or a third and fourth. I don't know. He'll probably talk about it tonight.
Yeah,
he'll definitely be talking about that, and you'll get to see who all's in there. I'm in it. I don't even remember which day, but I'm in it, and it's going to be a fun little deal. I didn't get to do it last year. I wasn't even around in the community last year at that point. That tells you how little time I've been around.
Yeah.
But, and I'm going to take out Creole Catfish, and anybody that watches me or Mark both knows that's my arch nemesis.
Me and your arch nemesis are going to be going head to head the day after Thanksgiving. Right now, we have it scheduled for, so we're going to see.
You and Creole?
Me and Creel, yeah, he called me out yesterday in the live. I was teaching Chunky how to fish.
Oh, homie, you're here.
But like fishing with like my goal, obviously I always want to get a new PB. You know, when you go out there, you're looking for that new PB. But I'm new to boat fishing and very new to kayak fishing. And my goal is just to get out there and learn the waters from being on the water. You're fishing from the bank. You go to spots that are good and you think they're going to produce, but when you're out there in the boat and in the kayak, you're able to move around, and sometimes that can be a problem because you can move around, so you may move yourself out of some fish. You have to figure out how the fish are reacting, especially on the tidal waters with the tide coming in, the tide coming out, and when the rain comes and the current is ripping. How does that affect the bite? Just learning all these different variables that come to fishing. That's my goal when I go into it. But right now I have a short-term goal, and that's to beat Dan in one of these tournaments, man. Dan keeps coming in, pulling these James River monsters out of, I don't know where he pulls them from, but he just keeps getting me at the last minute, man. That's my short-term
That'll be
goal.
quite the accomplishment.
And to get, of course, whip Chunky, but that's.
And you're gonna have Dan on. Has you got what it takes? That'll be interesting to watch.
Absolutely. We'll definitely get Dan out there for sure.
I think
Clint too. Hopefully, Clint can come up there too one day.
There you go.
That'll be fun. Maybe we can get. I wanted to get everybody up there when we had the Ryan, but it didn't work out. Everybody had other stuff that was going on. But yeah, maybe we'll do something like that with all the.
It takes me 12 hours. It takes me 12 hours just to leave Texas.
Yeah. Wow. Texas is a big state. My fishing goals is always the next fish. I'm not looking for PBs all the time. I want to catch that next fish.
Yeah.
And that's because you never know when it's going to be your last fish. Enjoy your time out there. Enjoy the time in nature. Enjoy the pursuit, because you never know when you're not going to be able to pursue any longer. So
exactly.
That's the way I kind of go after it. If a PB comes along, awesome. I'm looking forward. Am I trying to hone my fishing craft every time I go out? Absolutely. And those PBs come when you do it that way. That's how I go after them.
When you just get into PB chasing, it takes the fun out of fishing.
It does. It does.
Just want to go out there and have fun and take what the river brings you.
See, that's where I'm different. I'm happy just sitting there 20 hours for one bite. I mean, I'm just looking
for a
bite. That's why all 4 of my rods, when I'm out there, most of the time I'll have a chunk of bait like that. I'm not looking for those 12 and 15 pound fish. I just want that one bite, that one fish slams that rod over, spins the kayak around, and you can't get the rod out of the rod holder.
Yeah,
that's what.
Hear that break through them eyelets. That's the sound of success to me right there. That braid smoking through them eyelets on the rod. When you hear that you've got a good one. That's when the heart starts beating, is when you hear that and you feel that kayak lean and spin.
Yeah. I had one hit and then knocked the boat loose in the monster rod holder and turned the whole rod sideways and the rod holder. That thing was taking. That was when I was facing you and the current was 4.5 miles an hour. I shouldn't have been out there that day, but man, it was a learning experience. I learned my when to go out and when not to go out. I definitely learned my limits in the kayak that day for sure. But it was fun though, man. We had a good time that day.
Me and Kayak Mike were we had a tournament beside Vince Nadowski, I think, is the one that did the Ohio River Cats or Ohio Valley River Cats or something. The Rising Sun tournament. I know y'all have seen that. He's the one it's part of that trail. And we were up at a place called Tanner's Creek. And you put in a creek. The boat ramp comes out into a creek. And you go out of the creek mouth into the Ohio River, about a half a mile out. After you leave the boat ramp, you go a half a mile out to the mouth of the creek and you hit the river. Well, when you go out of the mouth of that creek, it's just like all at once that current just slams you sideways in the kayak. I mean, it's unreal just what was there that day. And all these other kayak people, I think there was 8 or 10 of us there that day, and they all went out there and hit that little wall and turned and went back into the creek. And they're like, we're fishing in the creek today. That's just all there is to it. And I was on my 12-foot Hobie. I was in the pedal drive, and I just went right on, and Mike was coming out. That was his first trip with any trolling motor. He had his little side mount hand-operated Minn Kota on there. That was his first trip with it. And he's just like, well, if he can do it with pedals, I can do it with a motor, And we went out there and we pulled the whole 8 hours, and I think I skunked everybody there. I think I had 3 fish that day. It was a 3-fish limit tournament. I had all 3 of mine, and nobody else had a fish. And we come back in, and everybody's like, y'all really stayed out there in that for 8 hours. And I'm like, we wanted to win. Y'all didn't want it bad, which looking back on it now, it probably was a dumb decision, but you're not thinking about the future when you're moment. Am I freezing up?
Oh, you did there for a second.
Yeah, you're good now. You're good now.
It's raining here. I think my Wi-Fi's on the fritz. But yeah, that was basically why I wanted to come on here today is and do this type of show, is bring all these guys on, show, blue collar is not what you do for a living. It's a lifestyle that doesn't have anything to do with what you do for a living, to be honest with you, to me. But I wanted to come on today and explain that, and then let everybody know the new channel name to be coming out. Don't be alarmed. If you don't like my content, don't subscribe or unsubscribe and don't watch it. I mean, I'm not trying to run anybody off, but I'm here for you all. If you like it and keep watching. But I'm going to probably end the stream right here. Y'all got anything else to say?
No.
I think we covered everything.
Best wishes on the Blue Collar Life channel. Looking forward to watching your content. I'm sure all the people here will love watching it, not only for your fishing content, but your lifestyle content, because we all kind of have a feeling for that whole deal. So why do you think the Discovery Channel has done so well, Ryan? You're going to do fine.
Absolutely. If you need any help with any ideas or anything like that, need to bounce them, just hit me up, man. We can brainstorm and bounce ideas off each other for sure.
Yeah, I'm definitely always doing that, especially with Clint. But all right, y'all. Next week, same time, same day. We'll see y'all next week.
Cheers, everyone.